So MaryAnne, that's a very urban idea, right? I mean, it's interesting. Early on, we talked about, in the day, we talked about Silicon Valley and the differences, and what Adam just laid out is very different than Silicon Valley, that you have this idea that you have this very mixed-use environment, and that's ultimately gets to a more collaborative, more innovative kind of setting for a lot of the kinds of companies that we're talking about. You're working all over the city, and obviously your company is working in San Francisco and many other parts of the country as well. Is that getting reinforced by what you see in the marketplace?
So just observations along the way. I mean, Adam and I have spent a lot of time talking about real estate, and I love when Adam describes what he does. It sounds so much more glamorous than what we real estate developers do, but I remind him that when he leases space for X and then aggregates subscriptions and gets 2X, that's real estate with a very good return. So he understands real estate, but his definition of real estate always includes community. And so we have this living, breathing experiment at Metrotech because we have always viewed it as a compression market. It's always been highly dependent upon what's going on in Midtown and downtown Manhattan. And our rents have always been stuck sort of in the high 30s. In the recessions, it dips to the mid to low 30s, and it's a very stubborn phenomenon. These are good Class A buildings. Yes, they're 80s buildings, but they're high performance buildings with decent infrastructure and critical mass. And so after we built the buildings and became operators, not just developers, started to look at it and realize that the floor plates were gigantic, and that the days of back office space and floor plates so large that you needed a porta potty, halfway around the perimeter, that maybe we could do something better than just continue to lease to financial service firms. And so we signaled to the market that we would divide space up. And in Metrotech, that was never something we were prepared to do. We'd much rather do a 60,000 square foot lease with a financial service corporation and good credit. So we started to dabble in a different type of tenant. We did this at the very same time that we saw a rising movement for people moving to Brooklyn. And we started to immediately connect this reality that the creative class has been living in Brooklyn unapologetically and by desire and design, not just because they couldn't afford Manhattan. And when you take that reality and you put it up against office space where a landlord is a Class A landlord willing to dabble and play and give competitive rents, draw smaller spaces, offer growth and contraction at will for tenants, we believed that we were onto something, that it wasn't that it was a brick-clad 80s building that would drive people like Adam Newman away. In fact, given the transit, given the critical mass, given the commitment of the landlord, that we really had an ability to change the makeup and the composition of the tenant at Metrotech. And the moment that we knew that we were there was when one of the tenants said, look, I have two issues. Can I bring my dog to work? And can my bicycle go in the elevator? Now, in Jed's world, that's something early on, they said, absolutely, bring it on. And we were, again, this uptight company, and I don't have anybody in Omaha, but I do have a parent company out of Cleveland. So it is this sense of, are we willing to adapt and change as is necessary to bring on this revolution? And so I'm proud to say, just in a short period of time since we made this conscious decision to try and lure this type of tenant to Metrotech, because we can, the basis in the building is low enough, construction costs were low enough when we built the building, that I'm willing to make a deal with Adam that I could never give him on a brand new building, because make no mistake about it, you cannot build new in New York City, even if you have zero land costs, for anything less than a 6 in front of it. If you're a tenant, you have to rent at $60 plus a foot to justify the cost of new construction. And that is the inherent limitation on brand new space for the creative class or technology companies. So I think you need to look at places where the buildings exist, the potential exists, the employees exist because they are living there or want to be there, and the critical mass exists so that you can create community in a way that make these spaces sing. So we have MakerBot, we have Tough Mudder, we have a number of other transactions in the works that are going to, lease by lease, beginning to change the look and the feel of Metrotech, so that it's my hope that you have a very different composition of tenant in the next 5 years.